Hey tolerators, this is To All the Men I've Tolerated Before with your hosts, Natalie Katona and Dina. Oh, go ahead, Dina.
Oh, whoa, hold on.
I was just gonna do
you
it.
taking my intro now? I didn't know. I'm too famous now to say my own name.
Yeah.
I didn't know we had gotten this far. I'm so excited. No, go ahead, say my name. Introduce me. I'm so excited.
Dina Al-Khatib. On this Hot Mess podcast, Dina and I explore some of the impactful relationships we've had with men. We then dig deep and thank them for the lessons they gave us and leave them with some positive manifestations we hope for their future. Today is exciting because it's our first double-digit episode, and to celebrate getting to number 10, we have a guest.
We do.
Yeah. We'll be talking with our first guest and some of the ways she's been tolerating men in her modeling career.
I'm so excited.
Meet Mix Regina Spade, a freelance model with a focus on alternative, conceptual, boudoir, and fantasy work. And she exudes, we've had a fight about this, she exudes such bad bitch energy. I never felt cool enough to approach her to hang out when we worked together for 2 years. So I started a podcast so we could finally be friends.
Yeah, that's, like I said, I think you brought this up before, Natalie, and I was like, this is creeper level 3000. Like, you're just gonna bring somebody on so that you can become friends with them? I feel like that's an invasion of some kind of space, I feel like. But we're happy to have you here.
But did it work?
It did work. She's here.
I am here. I mean, I am not going to go into a whole diatribe about our previous workplace, but there was definitely different cultures depending on which building you worked in. And as somebody who worked in both spaces in different capacities, don't be as offended or like overthink too much the whole crossing of the street.
No.
It didn't happen very much.
I completely get that. But like, I was the chick in high school who refused to fit into like a Mean Girls table situation, and I would just sit at a different table every day at lunch. So I was always like, but no, everyone, I'm the person who can fit in anywhere. Just let me.
I never thought I was like, I mean, I wasn't. I was a theater kid in high school. So, but I did sit with like a bunch of different people, and it was a weird amalgamation of like friends from middle school when we were like into anime and that kind of stuff.
Hell
and then like people, I guess, that would have been considered popular. Yeah. And then like my theater ass was just, I don't know. I don't know what I was in high school.
You just floated. That's what I did.
Those are the best sort of people, honestly, are the floaters. Because they could just get along with everybody. Yeah. It's the best.
I don't know that I got along with everybody. I think people were just like, we got to keep this crazy one like on our 11 all the time.
You never just got to know where she's at. You got to track her.
Yeah, because otherwise, like, she's going to burn some shit down or
love that.
Disappear for 3 days and come back with a tattoo. That happened.
Like, that's how I feel like my family feels about me. Like, I'm the kid who rolls into town and they all have to like gird themselves. Like, what is she going to say? What is she mad about today? What is she overly...
Let's see what fire she says.
What is she overly excited about today?
I'm banned from my family functions.
Damn, that's how you know you're awesome. You're banned from family functions.
Literally.
I didn't even get invited to a wedding of one of my cousins in the fall.
Goals.
Like, at all. Like, I was seeing about it on Facebook and was like, cool.
Honestly,
that's cool.
That's my goal. I would love to be uninvited from Thanksgiving.
I want to be uninvited from life. Just in general.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's just like a lot of not pretending and a lot of...
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's exactly. And, well, we're not here to talk about all that.
No.
That's a whole other...
What are we here to talk about?
Right, so,
dude, I don't know.
Let me get in with an intro question. So how long have you been modeling and how did that all start?
I first began modeling, it probably actually started about 12 years ago when I approached a local photographer about doing what at the time seemed really strange, but I wanted to do like a boudoir maternity session while I was pregnant with my first child. And she did really excellent boudoir that was much more like light play. And it was before boudoir really became like this big thing that it did. And she was like, yes. And I would be curious if you would want to come back every 3 months with your infant and my then husband, to do like family photos that she could use to build her online portfolio. She was a military spouse at the time, and was looking to build local. She had just moved to the area not that long before, so was looking to build resources in the area. And I was like, I like free pictures. This is cool. And that's where I really started to get comfortable in front of the camera. And then I started doing some freelance work for a local aerial fitness studio. Ooh. And they sponsored some, they worked with a photographer that did like pinup style stuff as decorations for the studio. And I finally bit the bullet and tried that. And I still work with that photographer today. That was probably 2 or 3 years after the family photo thing. And through the family photo photographer, like she would do workshops and stuff and asked me to come because I had a very quote photogenic family. Yeah. But then there was a part where I had to be by myself. And I just tapped into, like I said, I was a theater person in high school. So just sort of, put on this persona of a performer where and even though like in my head, I'm screaming like, this feels weird, but like, I know that I'm tall and fairly symmetrical. So like, I'm aware that, yeah, sure, I can look cool in pictures. Why not? And from there, it just kind of, picking cat litter off. It just sort of like became like occasionally things would pop up and somebody would ask me to take photos and I'd be like, yeah, sure, why not? Because it fulfilled that space, that theater that I didn't have in not having theater in my life. I have to even rewind even further. When I started college, I actually started as an acting major in a pretty intensive theater program, but I only stayed for about 1.5 years. I ended up with a degree in sociology instead. Because if I cannot pretend to be the people, then I am going to study them from afar and tell them all the things that are wrong with them and how they function and how everything functions and why everything is shit.
Mood.
Yeah. That's what I do with my teaching degree now. I'm like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. In my other life, I educate sociology and other topics. And yes, that's a thing. So the performer side of me has always been there, and modeling started to be a way to like vent that energy that I didn't really have otherwise, not being in a theater setting, which is how I ended up working for a performing arts nonprofit, was the weird amalgamation of all of my various interests and talents. And then befriended a couple photographers as I was getting divorced, and it kind of snowballed from there.
So what can you describe kind of what pinup is to those that don't really know much about it?
Sure. Yeah. Well, pinup culture has become a lot of things in the last few meaning like 20 years. It is an interpretation of 1940s, 1950s, and some 1960s pop culture through a more modern lens. Depending on which degree you want to go with it. You can be very classic and very what's called cheesecake, which is, the big smiles and the cute poses and the quirky sets and the themes and stuff. Or you can take it into a more alternative route where it ends up being much more boudoir focused with like Betty Page sort of themes, light BDSM, that kind of stuff.
Mood.
Yeah, well, that's where I do my work. And if my hair was down, you'd be able to see my bangs that are working for me more than I anticipated they would be.
Hell yeah.
And then, pinup, also there's like a car culture, like muscle car culture component where you go to car shows. I've done that a little bit. I actually got like second place in a pinup contest at a car show, like the first time I ever tried to enter one. It was one of the first times that I was like, I am maybe good at this.
This could be
Weird.
a thing.
Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, but then I wore a bathing suit because it was July and it was outside and it was hot and I had this cute pinup bathing suit. I was so nervous. And then I got second place. But then I found out recently that in subsequent years they have banned bathing suits. And I don't think it was my fault. I think maybe following people like wore less
Yeah.
clothing and they were trying to keep it family friendly, whereas mine was like high waist and like everything was covered. It was very, because I was much more conservative about how much of my body I showed then. I had 2 toddlers and definitely was not as accustomed to my mom bod as I am now. Now I'm like, screw it, whatever. Here it is. Ta-da!
Let it all out.
Pretty much. So, and then pinup, I mean, then there's like horror culture pinup where people like who are super into like classic horror movies do like it can be a rockabilly is a thing, which is like a blend of some of it. Like it really like spider webs out, but it's basically a style of photography that is centered in this like idealistic image from a past era.
Right. Yeah,
That's
because
hard
I
to
keep seeing
explain.
on TikTok, on Facebook, like this is like blowing up recently, like Boudoir in particular and pinup, you know, I know they're slightly different, but it's been blowing up. You'll see these wives or just people will do a boudoir shoot and then like give their significant other, their partner an album. And why do you think that this is like starting to blow up now? Like,
I have big feelings about that.
About the gift, I have feelings too.
Yes. Well, and even when it's, I mean, I don't begrudge any photographer that markets it that way, but like I have been unpartnered for a really long time, multiple years, since my divorce. And like, I have found boudoir to be the most empowering personally for myself. And it has taught me how to be comfortable in the body I have without feeling like I have to ascribe to certain beauty ideals or standards that are definitely set by the patriarchy. Like,
hell yeah, that's right.
I have this mom bod and I earned it through 2 very complicated pregnancies and I have 2 healthy children to show for it. But like, even if you're to look at my social media, I mean, you can tell which photos are photoshopped and which ones are not. Not that I'm ever photoshopped smaller, but like parts of me are smoothed out and softened. And I'm fine with that because part of pinup for me also is this like idealized version. Like if I were my own cartoon character, if I were my own pinup, like this is what I would want to look like. This is the fantasy of maybe if I had never had children, maybe if I had lived in a different time, maybe if I actually like did cardio more than once a month, like this is what I would look like, but it's not like how I move around in my actual life at all.
Right.
And so the whole like boudoir thing where it's like a gift, I'm like, it needs to be for you.
Right. That's what I think too.
I also have like an opinion on why boudoir and pinup culture is doing a resurgence. And I think it goes like hand in hand with why witchcraft culture is doing a resurgence. And it's like women are feeling so disempowered in the modern age. And we keep on getting told things like, but hey, you can vote now. Like, why aren't you happy? Or like, you can own property, so like stop complaining. That it's another way that we like grasp onto power individually from men. And it's celebrating our bodies.
Yes, I think so. In feminist film theory, there is talk about object as subject, that instead of being objectified and being like a decoration and used as a prop to perform male lens, like life through a male lens, that sort of thing, to take object as subject and become the subject means you start to participate in the production of the media, and that is the kind of stuff that I like to do the most. And it isn't like I interview photographers. I look at their work and I'm like, yeah, I like how they portray women. So I think taking an ownership and sort of removing yourself from that male lens and say, you know, this is me, this is my body, this is what makes me feel good about my body and being in the body I'm in, and this is me. Embracing that is a big reaction to all of the things that have been happening politically and the unrest and the you know, the attacks on reproductive rights and sexual autonomy and stuff like the legal things that have the laws recently that have been passed about it's said it's supposed to be about like pornography online, but it's a direct attack on sex workers online and other body workers. It this sort of ownership, and I think social media has given us a platform, us meaning women and female identifying people, and also non-gender conforming people, basically anybody not identifying as male, a platform for which we can present ourselves in the way we want to be seen, as opposed to when the control before with magazines, television, movies was strictly through these very specific channels that often were multiple levels of male gaze, where you just had to be grateful, quote unquote, to participate. Whereas now you can go to a female photographer and she probably has a female retoucher, and you can buy female owned lingerie from female centric companies that are size inclusive, and you can go to these studios that have been owned and rehabbed by women, and you can have this entire inclusive experience, and then you have these amazing photos. And they're not, I mean, the joke that I have is that I don't have a partner. I don't take these photos for a partner. I take these for my funeral slideshow. Like, there will be a directive in my will someday, like, you will not use these, like, whatever candids you've pulled from Facebook that somebody took of me in high school or something like that. Like, F you, you're going to put the one where I'm dressed like Betty Page right next to the one where I'm dressed up like a pinup mermaid, next to the one where I'm in the bondage stuff. And you're going to, like, that is what's going to be on display, because that's who I want to be remembered as.
Yes.
Like, yeah, put family photos in there too, like the professional ones I have with my kids and stuff, and be like, yeah, she was a mom, but she was also this. Like, don't reduce me just to the palatable conservative things that you think somebody should be in death. Like, I was this effing force of nature and of weirdness and in your faceness, and that's what people are gonna, I mean, hopefully remember about me, unless I, like, I don't know, have a complete psychotic break. I don't know. Like, so that's the joke, is I'm like, no, if I die, like, these better be the photos that are used to show who I was.
I love that. You're writing your own story, I mean, essentially. Like, you're showing it the way that you want it to be, not what everybody else wants it to be. So,
right.
Absolutely. And I think the style of modeling I do shows that. Like, I don't, like, I know Natalie introduced me as a boudoir model, but I don't typically, like, call myself that, because it conjures a very specific image for a lot of people that is more in line with, like, Playboy and Maxim and these sort of exacerbated images of a female form, which is which is not what I'm built like. And I am, if women feel empowered doing that, awesome. You plastic surgery makes you feel your best self, awesome. I am lazy and a single parent. My boobs are what they are, and that's what they're gonna be. Just because, I already have a lot of pretty bras. I don't want to have to buy new ones, and I didn't like having nursing boobs like that. They were huge and in the way all the time, and it just
relatable.
Nope, no, I'm good. So, like, I don't like calling myself a boudoir model as much, because people have a really specific image of that, whereas I don't know what to call what I do, other than, like, showing up to strangers' houses and getting in my underwear and letting them take pictures of me.
I love how involved you are with your concepts, though. Like, you have the vision and then you present that to someone, or you're having, like, dialogues with people about, like, what this specific shoot could be or mean. Like, you're part of the movement, because for so long, you're right, we didn't have a voice in how we were portrayed on the media, in literature, in anything. And now we're just like, no, our point of view matters. Spoiler alert. And it should have mattered decades ago.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love the idea that this, or not even the idea, that this is something for the person that is doing it. So I've mentioned this before on the podcast that I feel like sexually we're put in this lane of needing to be submissive and like, you know, a bit of subservient, especially in the bedroom. But like in the past few years, I have been drawn to being more dominant in the bedroom, exploring more BDSM and things like that. And I don't do that for anybody else but myself because it makes me feel powerful, makes me feel like a strong woman. And I'm so excited about what you do because honestly, my 30th birthday is coming up in the next few years. And I'm sitting here thinking like, man, I want to do a kick-ass photo shoot that makes me look like a demon fucking BDSM creature. That is what I want to be. Like, that is what I just want to feel like the most evil, badass version of myself. And I'm like, I need to do this. But I want to do it just for me, for nobody else but me.
And I remember like having to be told like, no, you can just buy lingerie for yourself. Like, just buy it, put it on, feel pretty for 15 minutes, and then put on your fleece PJs and go to bed. Like,
hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah. Yes, that's actually something that I have had to adjust to myself. I still get caught up in it's for a shoot, and at least I'm at a place where like that's viable. Like even if I'm going to purchase it now and I don't have a shoot in mind, I'm probably going to end up within the next 3 months. There's going to be something I'll be like, oh, I've got this thing. But also, it's how I enable myself to overspend sometimes. But yes, like lingerie can be just for you because you like it. And it doesn't have to be like the images that you see online or in catalogs or TV or whatever. Like if it makes you feel good and you are comfortable in it, you know, to some degree, depending on what kind of lingerie we're talking about, some of it purposely causes discomfort. But anyway, I see so many people talk about if I just lose 10 pounds or if I just do this or if I just do this, then I'll be able. And like, no, like now's good. Now's a good time for that because you deserve to feel good now in the body you have, in the things that you purchase. And I mean, sizing, this is going to be a different rant, but sizing is not, it's not standard. It's not,
not even a little bit.
It's a mess and it doesn't mean really anything. So, you know, in one thing I'm going to be a small and in another thing I'm going to be a large, and that's, it's literally putting one thing on, taking it off, putting another thing on, taking it, like there's no change in me in that meantime, pandemic aside. Right. We've all, and this has been one of the horses, that's not what I meant. Hills I'm going to die on about the pandemic is like people are like, oh, I gained so much weight. Yeah, you know, me too.
We all did.
But I also don't need those work clothes because that job doesn't exist anymore because of the pandemic. So while it's don't fit, like I can buy other clothes that do.
Right.
It'll be fine.
So a lot of your work ends up on the internet, which I have a very complicated relationship with the internet because I love to reward people whose content I enjoy and love with positive comments. And then like, I also fall into the trap of having to read all of the trolls' comments and being like, don't talk about my fake friends from my podcast that way. Like, don't talk about my podcast host like that. So what are some like behaviors from the opposite sex, from men, that you found yourself like just tolerating because in lack of a better term, it comes with the gig?
I'll be honest, not a whole lot, but that's the angry feminist in me where like I will cut somebody off real quick and just be like, yeah, no, you can't talk to me like that. I will delete comments. I will hide. I mean, it depends what platform we're on. I am not quick to block unless it's I'm in a bad mood. But I will hide. I will restrict. I will mute. I will just because my energy is not best spent mitigating men with no boundaries. Like, I just don't want to spend my energy on that. So I will do what it takes to just get you out of my feed or off my timeline so that I don't have to deal with it. Because I am avoidant. But it's a fine line, especially because I have recently rebranded to get my legal name out of everything. And with that came a chance to build a membership portion of my website. So when you become your own commodity, there's a very delicate line you have to walk between alienating potential customers and setting boundaries that are healthy for you in online spaces. And luckily, I think because of how I have consistently dealt with some of the lack of boundaries and consideration from the opposite sex, I haven't had to deal with a lot of problems with that. I also try to be cognizant that sometimes that it's potential that when people try to slide into my DMs, that they may not entirely have the same social knowledge and abilities that I do or that I am accustomed to. So I try to give like a slight benefit of the doubt, but you kind of get like a 3-comment strike and then you're out thing with me. But I also cater to being overly nice.
And what I was holding on to is like, I love how you put that, you don't take it inward, you put it outward. Like, that's your lack of boundaries, or you're on a different social education spectrum than I am. It's a very education way to look at something. Like, it speaks to your inner educator to be like, oh, this is a chance. Because I do it all the time on dating apps where, like, I'll just, like, volley back to a man, like, do you think that's appropriate? Like, how am I supposed to react to that? And they're like, well, I was. And I'm like, okay, think it through. What were you doing? Were you trying to be funny? Were you trying to catch me off guard? Like, what's happening here? And then I get blocked, and that's why I'm also very, very single, because like I don't want to tolerate it either.
No, I don't even mess with dating apps, honestly. Every time I do, I'm horribly disappointed. So and unfortunately, where we live is a very big small town.
Oof, that's true.
So it's really hard for me, and I went to a pretty large. I live in the same place that I grew up in, which was not the plan, but it's what it is. And it had a very large graduating class. And so I run into people that I went to high school with that I don't realize I went to high school with, or that went to high school with my ex-husband, or know some of my family members I don't speak to, because we all live here. Like, and I just don't want to participate with that drama and those cycles and just all of that. So yeah, so part of it is I don't date. Yeah. So that alleviates a lot of it for me. I just don't mess with it, you know. Pros and cons.
What is the best way that a member of the opposite sex can actually support, be a part of this, like be someone that is you know, a partner in this, rather than somebody who's like a dickwad, basically?
Creepy.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it means what you mean by participate. If they, I mean, it's as simple as leaving encouraging comments or liking photos or following accounts and stuff. That, I mean, there are definitely, I work with probably equally the same amount of male photographers as I do female photographers. I kind of vet the dudes a little bit more than the women, which is my own internalized sexism. But, you know, I also know that, like, you know, this one male photographer is not somebody I'm going to ask to do boudoir, not to any fault of his own. It's just like not what he does. So, right. But I will come to him about a conceptual idea, or if he comes to me about like a fashion idea, I'll do that, but I'm never going to cross that boundary because that seems established. Whereas there are other photographers who, based on their body of work and the conversations we have, I walk in and I'm meeting them for the first time and I'm in a thong and a mesh bra with the first 20 minutes. And it's just sort of like, meh, that's what it is. Like,
Right.
from like who I work with, it's just have good body of work, be respectful, have boundaries. It's as simple as a photographer being like, hey, I need to move this piece of hair because it's not in place. Is that okay? Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. I'm used to having, cats and kids and everything crawling all over me all the time. Like, touch is not a huge thing. But if you just come at me without telling me you're going to move a tendril of hair that's fallen into my cleavage, I'm probably going to try to block you.
You're right.
And
That's right.
we're going to move into defensive stuff. But as like a follower, I can think of one person specifically, but a couple more generally, that just make sure their comments are always respectful and aren't just like, man, you're so hot. Like, or just like, this is a stunning photo. Like, the words you use matter. Are you commenting on my body, or are you commenting on the composition of the photo? Are you commenting on the fact that something is see-through, or are you commenting on that you like the lighting? These are saying the same things, but saying them in different ways.
Right.
And I mean, of course, if you want to be like financially supportive, like I accept, like I can give out my Cash App. I accept PayPal donations. I accept you want to send me gifts because you think it would be really cool if I wore this one thing in a photo and you want to provide that. Okay, cool. Don't be weird about it. Just don't be weird about it. Just be like, I think you would look good in this. Here is this. No expectations. Like it's respecting a boundary, and that no matter how much you follow me online or for how long you followed me online, it doesn't mean you actually know me.
Right.
Yeah.
Except for the one person that I can think of in particular, I do know in real life. And he's just really awesome. And is due to his life and his circumstances, he super understands boundaries and respectfulness and consent. And so he is excellent with maintaining that and making sure that at no point in time in our interactions do I ever feel unsafe or uncomfortable. And he is like the gold standard that people have to live up to, which sucks for other people.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm thinking about, so what if there's a woman who wants to do a boudoir shoot for their husband or partner or whatever, because they feel, it's sexy, it turns them on, it turns their partner on, it generally just they just all want it, Right. And it's not like the guy is pushing her to do it or anything. They both think it's a really good idea to turn on. Is there, do you encounter that a lot? And if so, what are your feelings about that? I mean, because there's kinks associated with things like this, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, the first time that I ever did a shoot, part of it was trying to find in myself that level of attractiveness for my partner, and to be able to show to him, like, look, I can be this thing, even though I'm like hugely pregnant right now. This is still a thing. It didn't work because he wasn't open to it, but it taught me I was capable of it, and that's the important thing. I think giving it as a gift is awesome, and it doesn't even have to be a full boudoir, professional session. Like, you got some lingerie you like and a ring light and some time to yourself, dude. Selfie modes have become so amazing. Get you a little Bluetooth remote, and then and there are so many apps you can use to like edit things yourself if you want. Like, you don't like that you got some cellulite on your legs? You know what? Photoshop Fix is an app you can download and blur things, and you can be like, I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with it if your partner or the person you want to gift it to is open to that, because there is the potential for like huge, if they're not, you're going to feel like such shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Afterwards. So like, if it's a conversation you've had, that's cool. But I still think primarily it needs to be a gift to yourself. Yeah. And if you want to share that with other people who will appreciate it for what it is, that's awesome. Do it.
I ran into that with my last 2 relationships with different men. Like, the first man, him and our entire relationship began through like sexy Snapchat time. And like, Dina knows this, I miss sexy Snapchat time. Like, if I get a new bra or something that's really cute, I send it to her because I'm like, remember when I like got to take pictures of myself in my sexy mode?
I'm the
And
hype
she's like,
queen. You can send me anybody can send me nudes or anything, and I'll be like, hell fucking yes, let's go.
I think that is so important also as women. I've had a couple of people, some people that are friends that you would not think in my social circles would be this person that I have been able to just send nudes to and been like, look, and they've been like, fire, this is amazing. But
yes,
to Natalie's
everyone
point,
get yourself a nude buddy.
Hell yeah.
So like, when that relationship ended, I didn't get to sext anymore. I didn't get to send naughty pictures anymore. And like, so much of my own sexual development started that way because I was one of the very first AIM kids, like dirty texting strangers on the internet. Like, that's how we grew up.
girl, I think I at least have 5 years on you. And so I feel like, yeah.
Like,
Because Dina's like, I'm going to be 30 in a couple of years. And I'm like, I'm going to be 37 next month. Which is...
So I just turned 32 on Christmas.
5 years. I called it.
Yep.
But that's another thing about being in this business. I am consistently 5 to 10 years older than the photographers and the other models in the area, which because of internalized misogyny and ageism can mess with my brain sometimes too, about like, I'm too old to be out here doing this. Like you can see it in my face. I've got these angry 11s. I've had crow's feet since I was like 10. Like that's just my face structure. But like if you looked at my kids, you'd see the same thing. But, so I get in my head about that a lot, but I want to rewind to what Natalie was saying about sexy time online partners, which I wasn't going to talk about this, but we'll just go ahead and go and do it.
Ooh, I'm so ready.
So the thing I said about not having a relationship since I was divorced is not true entirely. As I was getting divorced, I got involved with another person who was engaged to somebody else, and on and off for 4 years, we were a thing. And it's like not
juicy. I love.
Oh yeah,
I love the tea.
It's not an unknown thing about me because while I tried to be, there's a difference between discreet and secretive. While I tried to be discreet while it was happening, I haven't ever kept it a secret. And there's an added layer to it because my marriage in part ended due to my ex-husband's infidelity, repeated, egregious, dangerous infidelity. And then to flip that and suddenly become what's known sociologically as an extradietic partner. Now you know what some of my research is on. Because I know the fancy words.
Wait, what the hell is that? Hold on, pause. What's that?
Okay, so extra is beyond.
Yeah.
Dyadic means 2.
So she's a third.
I was the other woman.
Yeah.
Go on.
Sorry, I put my teacher hat on there for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was the extra partner, not necessarily known to all parties until I made myself known because I'm an asshole. And when my feelings get hurt, I hurt everybody else's feelings because my Mars is in Scorpio.
I feel that so hard.
Oh my god, I was gonna guess that you were either a Gemini or a Scorpio or an Aries, and I was like, I'm feeling this energy.
I'm a Pisces.
You're a Pisces?
I'm a Pisces.
I just met a Pisces for the first time. I had no idea anything about them. Like, I don't know anything about Pisces.
I've slowly decided that we are all fucking assholes. And because almost every single Pisces I have encountered or been involved with, friendship, work relationship, partnership, whatever, has ended up being a flaming bag of shit.
Oh, shit.
So I probably am fully capable of that as well. But my Mars is in Scorpio and my mom was a Scorpio. And I don't understand a lot of the Scorpio hate out there. I have a soft spot for them, but I think it's just because I'm a little broken and a little twisted. So people just are in denial about their own brokenness. That's half the problems in the world.
That's so fucking true. Holy shit.
So to go back to the photos,
yes.
Part of how this relationship with this human, this clandestine relationship with this other human participated was sexy Snapchats and kick messages and
Oh my God, Cake.
photos and stuff. And we operated very much like a long distance relationship, despite living like 20 minutes from each other. And, and I don't want to give him credit for shit. Because I know he's probably actually going to creep this and listen to it because he still creeps on me shit and thinks I don't know. But I do. Part of the confidence I started to gain in doing more pinup and more boudoir stuff came from these sexy selfies that I got very much positive reinforcement from him, where like, despite being some of the heaviest I had been in my adult life and them being like, you know, grainy on an Android, because I was staunchly Android for a while, you know, what feels like decades ago in technology terms, like they were pixelated and creatively, like they just were that low res, was when I started to do a little bit more and push boundaries a little bit more about the kinds of things I would wear at shoots, or like the kind of shoots I decide to do and that kind of stuff, because then I would have professional photos that sort of went more in line with the selfies and stuff I was taking and sending. And for a while, also sharing those online helped with that positive reinforcement that I lacked when he wasn't in my life anymore. It filled that void. It was also, continues to be a very petty, continual fuck you. Until the span of all time. Like, oh, and now I'm actually doing this thing, and look at these photos I'm putting out there, and look, you have to look at them with the general public like everybody else. They're not your secret. Sucks to be you.
I would get such petty pleasure if the guy who ended up being like a complete toxic narcissist, and like that breakup like threw me on such a mental emotional loop that I didn't like feel safe. My panic was at an all-time high. Like, I would get such petty pleasure if, because now my Instagram and everything is public because of this podcast, like he ended up being a follower, and I'd be like, yes, this is how I talk about sexuality now because I practiced with you. You fucked it all up. You could have been my ever persistent partner in this. And now I'm going to do what I do with my feelings when no one gives me attention, and I'm going to put them on the internet.
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm so petty that I wrote an entire book of poetry about this relationship, and I self-published it.
Yes, you did.
Yes.
And I talked very openly about specific encounters and that kind of thing, partly to purge it out of myself, and then also because I'm petty, like, oh, you want to pretend like I never existed? Good luck with that. And I don't want to talk too much about this dude, but his family and him ended up moving several states away.
Damn.
I think for, because this town is really small and we kept running into each other.
This podcast actually like birthed from my petty need to own my own story and my content. Like, Dina and I had a whole separate conversation about like, when we start this, everyone knows everything, and then what? And she very clearly said, she's like, I'm 28 years old. My family and fucking everyone else doesn't get to own my story anymore.
Yes, right. Absolutely. Yeah, that's where the poetry book and stuff was. And then I reached a point in that where I didn't want to stay in that place. So I ended up taking everything down. It also was under my legal name because petty. And as I have like moved forward in like leaned more into this modeling and leaned more into this like presentation of self, this Regina person who is embracing my own sexuality and my own interests and my own kinks and whatever in a public way without the asterisks of context of in relation to another person, which is why I choose the mix honorific. I talked a little bit with this about Natalie. You know, I'm a divorced woman. I have no ties to any last name I've ever had. the mix thing, honorific, which is used a lot with transgender people and non-gender conforming people. So, you know, the gender studies person in me wants to normalize that, just like normalizing putting pronouns in profiles, even though I'm pretty clearly cisgendered and present as high femme. Like, that's, you know, and I have children that look like me and I birthed. Like, it's pretty clear that the parts match the brain, match the soul, match the, that's just my privilege. I hate the whole paradigm of Miss, Mrs., Miss, Ms. Like, I just, all of that, like, whatever my marital status is, based on my age, based on what your perception of my relationships at, like, none of that matters. What I am identifying as myself. And so you're going to get an X there, and it's MX, and that's what it is, because screw you. I get to define how I am addressed. And it's not in relation to any man I happen to find myself related to legally or genetically.
I love that.
I do.
I am not a language expert, but I go on such long rants of like, we only have qualifiers in language for women. Mm-hmm. Like, we will call women mistresses, but you very rarely hear someone called a mister if he too is like.
Well, mister's a sign of, you say mister when it's. Yeah, you're trying to be super respectful.
Yeah,
Mister. That's Mister somebody. Like with my kids, teaching them how to address people. That's, you know, Mr. John. That's Mr. whoever. That's Miss Katie. That's Miss. You know, like that's when they were littler to teach them to show respect. But yeah, being labeled a mistress or any of the other derogatory terms that can become. That are more pejorative when you participate in non-compulsory mononormativity. Sorry.
Yeah.
So monogamy is the main culture, toxic monogamy being the main. I didn't mean to get so teachery with this.
No, we love it.
So yeah, so when you step outside of that paradigm of mononormativity, which is a, you know, two-person monogamous relationship, you get called a lot of names. And modeling to this day is still a little bit of how I'm reclaiming that identity. Like, I'm allowed to be these things. And while I made choices that in retrospect are unfortunate in some ways, I don't regret parts, but I do regret other parts. Especially as somebody who experienced infidelity as the non-consenting partner. Mm-hmm. I know how hurtful it is, and I never meant to hurt anybody, but it was also evidence of my own lack of boundaries and my own struggle to deal with my own traumas from my childhood and personalities that felt familiar and safe because they reminded me of dynamics in my childhood, even though they were not healthy or safe. You know, it takes a lot of self-forgiveness. It's not a choice I would make again. Absolutely.
Nobody's perfect. I mean,
right. Like, right. And I don't regret the relationship necessarily in and of itself, because I did learn about myself a lot there. How the whole thing even began. And this is pertinent, how the whole thing began. So I was doing Instagram project that was called 365 Feminist Selfie. And it was in response to some piece that had been on Jezebel or something like that about how girls that took selfies were just closet narcissists. And the spin that the woman who began it put on it was like, no, this is us claiming our narrative. This is us having finally a platform to be ourselves and present ourselves the way we want. To take selfies is inherently feminist because we are taking ownership. We're taking up space by existing in this corner of the internet. And so I participated in it, and I ended up winning an award for some of my selfies. But so anyway, so I won an award for this selfie project for a photo I took in it when I was still mom blogging and stuff. And then one of the selfies I had posted, you know, my marriage was falling apart. My husband was not interested in me in any regard, sexual, anything. It was a mess. We were a mess. And I had bought some lingerie for myself, like on Zulily, cheap, because you can still find stuff really inexpensive. It doesn't also have to cost $1,000. Like,
yeah.
please explore. I will let you know the places I get the cheap lingerie and
Name
like the
3
sales
right
they
now.
do and stuff. Playfulpromises.com. Zulily, if you know your sizes, you can get really fancy stuff. And then you can also find it Nordstrom Rack very often. Go get sized at Nordstrom Popper, then go buy some things of the same brand at Nordstrom Rack.
All right.
Yes.
Go on.
So I had taken a selfie of this like matching set after I had just actually properly been sized and bought some things and like was feeling myself, and I posted it, and it was like me laying down over my shoulder so you could just see like the top of my boob and like some of my hip. Like it was very, very, because I was so self-conscious about my body as a woman, and then specifically the way I was raised to hate my body. Like that there was nothing good about it. So I was being very like, I don't know if this is okay. And so I posted this, and then I got a DM on Kick from I didn't know. And the comment was, what I remember was, I should have screenshot it and I didn't, was like, you don't know me, but I've been following you for a while, and I can tell you've been going through a hard time lately, and I just want to let you know that you are beautiful and special, and anybody who can't see that in you is completely missing on what is amazing about you. And I thought maybe hearing that from a stranger would help.
That's how they fucking get you.
And then the next 4 years of my life were a complete overly dramatic shit show, because I can see Dina's face right now, and that's pretty much the face I made when I got that message. Was like, oh, because I had zero self-esteem. I didn't have anybody in my life who was building me up, and this person saw me in the way I wanted to be seen, and desperately could not achieve at that point because of the people I was surrounded by. So that's how I fell down that wormhole. And despite all of the ick and the giant asterisks around the relationship, whenever I sent a selfie, and I would push myself a little bit more to show a little bit more and to do a little bit more and stuff like that, his response was so encouraging. And it was never just like in a gross way. It was like, you are amazing, and this photo is amazing, and I'm proud of you for stepping out of your comfort zone, or like, that looks great on you. You have such a great sense of style. Like, it was never just about my body. It was about like me as a person inhabiting this body, which was the difference. And there was a time where we did not speak, because again, I was an asshole. I outed myself to his.
My Snapchat affair, if you want to call it that, like he hit all of my buzzwords. You're so strong. There's a uniqueness to you that can't be won over, like anything like that. And I would just like get so addicted to it. And it's amazing.
It's totally addictive. Oh, yeah.
It's amazing what the safety of a compliment will offer you.
And not just about like your looks, but about like you as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So Dina has a daddy. We've already talked about him. Does your daddy do that for you? Like when you send things, does he make sure to not only like affirm that whatever he bought you looks great, but it also like changes your demeanor or something like that?
Oh yeah. He builds me up in a way that other people have not before. That is why he's so special to me in the first place. And there are no expectations. I've said this before, is when he sends me things. You know what just happened? Just because you brought up my daddy. He sent me these boots. Actually, I'm going to show you guys because I love them so much. Where are they? They're like right here. Hold on.
As a Pisces, I am like obligated to be invested in shoes.
Okay, so look at these shoes. They're like long, strappy, like want to step on somebody's face shoes. And he sent me those. I just looked at myself. I felt so powerful. I was like, yes! But like, there's no obligation from him for me to send anything at all. Like any pictures or anything. He just wants me to feel good. He just wants me to feel good about myself.
I need one of those.
That's pretty great.
We all need a daddy. I got so mad when she got her daddy because I was like, you didn't even try. I'm over here every day, like Googling, like, how do you sell your underwear without anyone ever knowing you're selling your underwear? And like, how?
There used to be a website for that, but it got shut down.
There's plenty of places. Actually, Instagram is one of the biggest, and Twitter. Like, people just make accounts and sell shit.
You gotta make a fake account.
You do,
or,
yeah.
Change
Dina,
all of your existing accounts to a pseudonym. What?
What about
Who does
TikTok?
that?
Build a different identity.
Do you think you can sell underwear on TikTok?
I don't know. I don't know much about their terms of service, to be honest with you.
I don't think there are rules on TikTok.
There are, because they're minors. That's the thing. Is they have a lot of shit with minors on there.
And you have to be careful with certain websites about like hosting and stuff. You have to read the service of the hosting of your website, because like this membership thing I started on my website, like I started to do it and I was like, oh, I can basically do what a lot of other people are doing without having to use a third-party website. Because again, I have an ex-spouse that likes to try to make my life miserable. And so I was like, so if it's just a membership on my website where my content already exists, this saves me things. But then I was like, wait, let me read the terms of service, because I don't want to accidentally like get my whole website deleted.
Right.
Yeah. Because that's the thing too, like the censorship that's been going on with social media, like out of nowhere. And it doesn't even have to be like the powers of be at the company or whatever. It can be somebody with a stick up their ass that just doesn't like you, that just reports everything. That puts you on their radar, and then you're getting posts taken down. And even though like there's no butt crack, there's no nipple, there's like, you're like, I'm sorry, does the slightly photoshopped stretch marks on my stomach offend you? Like, I don't understand what's happening. Yeah.
I truly believe that all of this that's going on with censorship online and whatever, it's a direct attack to women. It's like, once again, we found a way, like it's our new Salem witch trials. We found a way that you were powerful, and we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that it's not happening anymore.
I would even expand that to LGBT community as well. Because in a society, the people who are marginalized, who do not have the privilege and the power, are going to consistently be attempted to be silenced by the people in power in order to maintain the status quo and to keep their privilege what it is. So right now, with this platform where women, people of color, LGBT people, gender nonconforming, are able to not only be seen and heard, but they can educate. White men don't like that.
No, never, not once.
So they're going to do what they can to make the world dangerous for us again.
So we're about to run out of time for the second time on our meeting, and we're coming up to the end of our wonderful hour.
Yes.
So I have two final questions.
Okay.
What have you learned from your interactions with men in your modeling and just life background? What's your biggest takeaway that you can thank them for putting you through? I know it's hard.
I would actually say that I think that it's been very apparent in the ways that I have dealt with men throughout my life that they have been robbed of emotional intelligence by toxic masculinity. And allowing them the space to express themselves openly and freely and to be a safe place for them is one of the most authentic ways you can show up. However, also affirming your own boundaries and making sure that no one treats you ways you do not want to be treated. Like there's no excuse just because that's the way it's done or that's how it is. You are allowed to do that. It is complicated, obviously, because there can be very real dangers in an in-person interaction that go with that. And to some point in online interaction, like I said, somebody can start a smear campaign about you and and what are you gonna do about it? Like, so I think it has taught me to not be so quick to judgment, but to understand that everybody carries their own trauma. And for a lot of men, they have never had the space to talk about it because it hasn't been acceptable. It doesn't mean you have to be their therapist. That's again, establishing a boundary, but allowing that, like I said, my 3 comment rule, because I don't know if the person who's coming into my comments is being intentionally offensive, or maybe they're not neurotypical and they don't understand what they're saying is offensive. Allowing that space for potentialities while still maintaining no, you cannot cross this line. I have learned how to establish boundaries that I did not have and that I was not afforded growing up. So that's, I guess I can thank men writ large for that.
And then if you would have a manifestation going forward, what would you wish or hope for men and their interaction with our collective energy?
To stop moving in fear.
I love that.
For men to be able to have that open space to gain that emotional intelligence and to get to know themselves in the same way. And that women often we do for each other, and that they can move through the world emotionally safe and open. That would be, and the abilities to realize in a lot of cases their own worth is beyond what they've been told it is too. They are more than their careers and their families and their, the presentation of a successful male. Just like for women, it can be so many, you get to define your own kind of success. That's true for men too. The patriarchy hurts everybody.
Yeah.
So.
It's beautiful what can happen when you let them be vulnerable and tell them it's okay. It's okay.
Yes. All right. Do you have a manifestation on the fly, Dina?
I don't. I kind of just want her manifestation to kind of shine here.
Lovely. Yeah. So let's move into plugs.
Yep.
Regina, do you have anything and everything you want attention for? Now is your moment.
I live pretty much on Instagram. I have several accounts there, actually. I have a main one and a backup one, and then there's a special one for the subscribers to my membership part of my website. And it is all versions of my name, Mix Regina Spade. My website is MX Regina Spade, all smushed together, .com. It's where you can see almost all of my work, but if you want to be able to see a lot of the boudoir and the new stuff I've been doing, the membership is just $7 a month. So it's not bad.
Awesome.
Stuff and things.
All right. And as always, tolerators, make sure to like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star review and comment about what you're enjoying about this episode, all episodes, anything and everything. And we can start highlighting great reviews. Our Instagram is at Men I've Tolerated Pod, and my personal Instagram is Natalie K124. And then my new blog that's following my journey with the artist way and reconnecting with my artist and my magical side is at natalie'sinspiration.com. The latest post is about how I'm trying to write a children's book about Penelope being my familiar and learning all that goes on with that. And then you can email us any questions or comments at menI'veTolerated@gmail.com. No punctuation. Hit it, Dina.
Yeah, like always, you can follow me on Instagram, ms.caboose. I'll have links to my Twitch and every other social media out there. You can come watch me play video games or be bad at video games or whatever you're... whatever. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
No, thanks for having me. Sorry, I just rambled.
No, this is what we do.
Yeah. We like that.
You made so many great points about like how we need to interact with one another in this world.
All right, well, good vibes only, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Good vibes only. Bye.
Bye.